Welcome back. It's still Monday, June 2nd, 2014. This is still the morning edition. Thank you for staying with us. ANU is a social change organization that strives to strengthen Israel's democracy and diversify the public discourse through media and digital activism. They are the result of an unprecedented merger between three leading social change organizations, that's Agenda, Hasdera, and Uru. This is a call now for collective action, which means basically civil society working together for social justice, together and visibly empowered to work together, of course, to bring social change. To hear more about it, we're joined in studio by the ANU Deputy Director, Nicole Hod. Good morning, Nicole. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
So, of course, one of the biggest criticisms of NGOs around the world, not only in Israel, is that there's so many of them, and so many of them are trying to tackle the same problem. That's what ANU has tried to challenge?
Right. In fact, we are embedded in the belief that we have to work together, and that's why we are actually a union of three organizations. And what we try to do is get people to act together, because when they're together, they can be a lot more visible, and they can have more power to influence and ultimately make change.
What was the trigger that led ANU to be established? What happened, or what kind of red line did the other social organizations get to? We mentioned Agenda, Hasdera, and others. What kind of, they couldn't handle it anymore, and they said, okay, we have to actually join forces?
Well, actually, it started with Agenda that was in the ground for over 10 years, working to promote change through the mainstream media. And there's so many changes in the media itself. That on top of the fact that, like you say, there's so many nonprofits in the field, that we said we either become a lot more relevant and we try to bring in know-hows from more innovative organizations, or we shut down, because we didn't want it to drag an organization that without being the most relevant possible. And we identified these other two partners in the ground that were working through the new media and digital tools, and we realized that if Agenda, working with the mainstream media, the more traditional media, gets together with the new media guys, we could really have a lot more professionals in all the different fields and be able to give up added value to the rest of the field.
So give us an example of a very successful campaign, and describe also what success means today in today's NGO world.
Right. Well, I can give you two different examples. One example could be a very locally based, whereby a group of activists in the ground feel completely disempowered because they don't want simply, let's say, the local municipality to shut down our local park. They don't have time to go to the streets or to go to the Knesset and talk about it, but they realize with a very simple online tool, they could get together, sign a petition, or even an email directly sent to their local leaders and ask for them not to destroy their park because they use it on a daily basis.
But is that enough to convince the local leaders? Just
Believe it or not, when that local leader is getting 1 and 2 and 20 and hundreds of emails for the same cause, and through our tool, people can send it directly. It's not through our organization. So the leaders are getting something directly from individuals, and they cannot ignore it anymore. That's an example of a small, locally based initiative. And I can give you a larger campaign that we're promoting now.
What has worked on the ground? What can you say, us at ANU really changed the reality for Israelis today?
Well, that example that I gave you actually worked. Also, the beaches of Palmachim, people didn't want them to turn it yet into another resort, private complex. Yeah. And they were actually managed to stop it through our campaign
pressure
mails.
And digital pressure.
Yes.
It's all through digital pressure.
I think it has to be a combination of online and offline activities. And we can't take credit for everything that's going on the ground. But what we can do is give them tools to work together. And then you obviously still need the activists in the ground, and you still need to work in the Knesset, and you still need lobbyists. But we can definitely make things work faster and stronger.
A lot of the criticism about Israel is that since the 2011 social protests, not much has changed, and people are pretty much disenchanted. They're not going back on the streets in the hundreds and thousands, and that one time, the million people that went out on the streets and called for social change. Do you think that Israelis can be more active if they're on their web, if it's perhaps easier for them to be active digitally?
The way I see it, I think we're entering the second phase of this protest. I think people are busy with their day-to-day life, but we don't want that spirit to fade down. And I think that what we're trying to give is this opportunity to professionalize this protest, bring in more systematic change, and part of it has to do with bringing that discussion to the blogs and to the online and to the Facebook, but at the same time that combined with professionalism and lobbying and working with the government.
How many campaigns are going on right now in ANU?
Over 200.
Wow. And all Israel-based?
All Israel-based. And our lunch last week, we hosted a few of the activists behind these campaigns, from people promoting rights for people with disabilities, gay rights, Haredim, ultra-Orthodox, trying to change a little the way the mainstream media is approaching them. We really have a big scope of people, but the common denominator is social justice.
And what are the big campaigns now that we should be looking for that are on that brink of becoming viral, if you will?
So a high-profile campaign that we're running is 1325. It's to increase women in decision-making posts in security and peace. We believe that peace cannot be...
Which is very much lacking here in Israel.
Right. And we believe that women cannot be absent from this process. We have Tzipi Livni, but that's not enough. And if women are on board, we think...
So how are you going about in doing this? Just by calling for it?
We have a really viral campaign that it's based on these safety pins that say 1325. That's a UN resolution that encourages women to participate in many other countries. And we actually went to the Knesset and had pictures of members of Knesset taking pictures with that pin, the 1325. And that's going on viral on videos on YouTube and all over the media.
And do you have any international organizations that ANU looks towards in the United States or in Europe that says this is how we want to be, a kind of precedent for these kinds of organizations?
Yeah, definitely. This is a model that is proving all over the world. There's Avaz that it's international, has millions of members. Move On, which is based in the States. Get Up in Australia. So there's definitely a lot of organizations around the world, and ANU wants to bring that know-how into Israel.
So it's crowdsourcing meets social platforms.
That's exactly right, and we call it crowd doing.
Crowd doing. That's a nice term. I'm going to start using it. Nicole Hod, thank you for joining us. And now we get to say hello.